Hello everyone! In the previous video we showed that one of the female praying mantises drowned in the aquarium. This raises a reasonable question. How many animals have died in the terrarium since its launch? Another question remains unanswered. What happened to the bird eater? Did it die too? What about the other spiders? It's time to talk about it. Let's start with the stick insects. As you'll recall from the first video about the fauna, we put 2 anemones and 1 Sungaya stick insect in the terrarium. It's unclear how or when it happened, but the Sungaya lost its right hind leg in the terrarium. It was still there when it was introduced. Did it lose it in a battle of some kind? Honestly, based on its appearance, I think it should terrify all the other inhabitants of the terrarium. Stick insects not only look like twigs but can also mimic their movements to avoid attracting predators' attention. It's time to correct the flaw in the first video and add a mate for this little one. That way everything is fair and each species has a mate of the opposite sex to communicate with. The stick insect clearly didn't know the meaning of hospitality because he turned around and went off to eat. He didn't invite Famal to dinner or give us a tour of the terrarium. There's no time for sentimentality on an empty stomach. While the stick insect Sungaya found a mate, the anemones one disappeared. More precisely, the male disappeared. We hadn't seen him for 5 days. The female sat in the same place the whole time, only changing branches. Then, quite by accident, we found his body. It turns out that the female had been sitting nearby the whole time. He had remained under the Maranta plant, which these herbivores love to eat. The insect had already turned black. When insects dry out, their legs curl up. Stick insects are no exception. It is unclear what could have caused his death. Perhaps it was one of the large spiders, or maybe it was simply his time. Death is part of the natural cycle that must be accepted. In nature, the death of one insect often means the continuation of life for another, more developed insect. We have seen this before in the terrarium. In this case, a careless fly became prey for a spider. But that was a very small fly. Now a large fat one has flown in. The warm terrarium attracts autumn flies. This one is almost 2 centimeters in size. Good catch, thought the spider as it became interested in the flying, buzzing object. Look how many webs he has spun here. The camera doesn't show it, but everything here is literally covered in cobwebs. So far the fly is just teasing the spider, who twitches every time it flies by. The spider chose a place near the waterfall to spin its webs. This is hardly a coincidence. Water has always attracted insects. The spider now has an opportunity because the fly got caught in the web. However, the arthropod missed its chance. It needs to act faster. It seems to have realized this, as it twitches every time the fly flies by. The fly has become so bold that it landed opposite the spider and is teasing it. I may have endowed the spider with higher cognitive abilities, but that's exactly how it looks. The spider's appetite was whetted, so it decided to have a snack, at least a small gnat. It wrapped the gnat in its web and began to eat. The spider waited patiently for the fly to fly into its sticky trap. I've never seen anything like this before. First, the spider wrapped the fly in its web. Then it began biting through the web with its mandibles, apparently deciding the extra pieces were in the way. The spider spins its web at an incredible speed, wrapping its prey in it with its hind legs. The spider appears to have paralyzed its prey and must hurry to wrap it in a cocoon before the fly regains consciousness. Then the spider chews off the excess threads and continues forming a ball that hangs by just a few threads. It turns out that the spider was chewing through its web to pull its prey higher. The excess threads were in the way. Afterward, the spider bites through the cocoon to inject digestive juices into the fly, continuing to wind new turns. It seems afraid the fly will escape and leave it without dinner. When the fly began to move again, the spider injected more poison. The digestive juices will turn the fly into jelly and the spider just has to wait patiently, though probably no one is better at waiting than spiders. His efforts in weaving webs and waiting for prey have now paid off 100%. The spider attaches itself and devours the fly's insides. This is certainly a successful catch, much better than feeding on small Drosophila flies. Flies often fly into the terrarium. Here's another one that fed the Venus flytrap. By the way, a couple of weeks after setting up the terrarium, many of the flytrap's traps were missing. Some were just drying up. However, there are also quite a few that are fresh and ready to perform their function. This is the fly trap after almost 2 months. As you can see, the lower traps dried up long ago and new green ones have replaced them. Within a single plant, we can see how death is replaced by new life. Continuing the theme of carnivorous plants, let's take a look at the Sarracenia pictures. Dry leaves have also appeared here in a couple of months. This is most likely due to moisture droplets falling on them. Nevertheless, the Sarracenia fulfills its function, luring a woodlouse inside. It appears that this is a Porcellio scaber woodlouse that fell victim to the carnivorous plant. A snail also got inside. Remember, Sarracenia juice has paralyzing properties, so it may have affected the snail. A couple of days later, the snail escaped, having gotten a good night's sleep. Now it knows where to find a sleeping pill. Perhaps the plant that killed the most insects in the terrarium is Drosera though. This carnivorous plant is literally covered with Drosophila midges. I'm afraid to imagine how many midges there would be if it weren't for the Drosera. The spiders probably did not catch as many combined. Without exaggeration, we have a super predator here. A spider web also appeared between the two carnivorous plants. It is a veritable concentration of danger. There are also Pristomyrmex ants acting as guards. At first glance, a terrarium appears to be a peaceful place. In reality, it is a dangerous place for insects where cobwebs grow thick and danger lurks around every corner. If anyone thinks they can hide in a cave, they should know that the Steatodus spider has already set countless traps there. By chance, I saw a jumping spider in the terrarium. I first saw it a month and a half ago. Look how small it is compared to my finger. Judging by appearances, it has claimed more than one victim in that time. Finding it was pure luck. To give you an idea of its size in relation to its surroundings, I set up an arena for it and took it out of the terrarium for a while. I have never seen it hunt before. Then again, before that, I had never seen a haymaker hunt either. Now it's time to fill another gap with the example of the witch doctor beetle. So far, the spider prefers to hang out at the top of the arena. It wants everyone to admire how beautiful and unusual it is. Jumping spiders do not spin webs. They hunt by jumping on their prey and injecting it with venom. As we can see from the ruler, it is quite toxic for its size. Meanwhile, the spider has spotted potential prey and is assessing the distance for the jump. It seems that the spider has changed its mind, perhaps because it assessed the size or decided that the beetle's chitin is too thick. Now let's replace the beetle with a few fruit flies. Instead of hunting, however, the spider decided to save itself. Is something wrong? Isn't it hungry? Does it prefer to watch from above? Unable to see what we wanted, we replaced this spacious arena with a small formicarium. Maybe we'll see a battle in more confined conditions. So far, only midges have attacked the spider. Spiders can go a week or more without feeding. Maybe it's just not hungry. Or maybe it doesn't want to show off its skills yet. Let's return the arthropod to the terrarium and allow it to continue pretending to be a formidable predator that controls the population of small herbivores. Now let's go back to the terrarium ourselves. Unfortunately, the spiders not only hunted but also died. One morning I found a dead spider at the bottom of the aquarium, a rather large spider, an unsuccessful hunt. I don't think he came in here looking for another arthropod. It's possible that some movement underwater attracted him though. Then again, maybe it was just an accident. We'll never know. We took the spider out because it doesn't belong underwater. Then we tried to figure out what it was. At one point, I thought it was a haymaker spider, but it's still there. The only remaining possibility is the yellow-bellied spider, Hyracanthamum, also known as the toxic madman. It is a nocturnal predator, which coincides with the timing and size of the incident. However, these are only indirect clues because it is difficult to identify the species of spider based on its blackened body. In addition to the spider, a fish drowned. The cause of its death was strangely related to the shelling of Ukraine's energy infrastructure, which led to a 4-hour power outage and left the terrarium without light. The aquarium was also left without a filter. Beneficial biological bacteria live in the filter, and they die if the filter is turned off for more than 2 hours. Unfortunately, this is what happened in this case. When the power was turned back on after 4 hours, toxic substances such as ammonia and nitrites were released from the filter. The first time, all the fish survived the stress, but the second time, unfortunately, one fish died. Although no fish died during the first incident, they definitely experienced stress. At least one of the Neratina snails did. The poor thing started hiding by burrowing into the sand. A couple of hours later, the snail was crawling along the bottom of the aquarium. Everything turned out fine, and the snail survived. Contrary to the comments I saw in previous videos, the bird spider survived. It chose the space behind the back wall of the terrarium as its hiding place. I just saw it climb behind the wall near the plant. We grabbed the phone, hung it on the charger cord, and tried to film it. This is what the search for the spider looked like from the outside. Here is the bird spider itself. Of course, it was too close to the camera lens, so the autofocus didn't work. Still, it's clear that it's him. Now we know where our spider has settled. He only comes out to hunt when he's hungry. Fortunately, there's plenty of food in the terrarium. The soil in the terrarium is apparently not a friendly place for the spider, unlike the shelter at the top. To diversify the spider's diet, we added several beetles to the terrarium. Some of them are quite bold. As soon as we poured them out, they immediately started burrowing into the moss. At least they tried. It's a dangerous place. You have to hide right away. After a couple days, the beetles settled upstairs. Despite the high humidity, it's dry up there. It's also warm, so let's not forget physics. Let me remind you that the bird eater comes out at night. A week after the beetles moved in, one of them died. Judging by the fact that its insides were gone, they most likely ended up in a spider's stomach. But we can only guess which spider ate it. The smartest beetle found the safest place and settled on a branch. There was more than just a spider hiding behind the back wall. Madagascar cockroaches had also settled there. They only come out of their hiding places at night when it's dark. At other times of the day, they cannot be found. It is only possible to capture them on video because they are quite slow and not very agile. They perceive the sudden turn on of the light as danger and immediately retreat to their shelter. Unlike the secretive bird eater, however, the cockroaches come out one by one almost every night. Sometimes a cockroach does not come out alone but also brings orange woodlice with it. However, after the light is suddenly turned on, the woodlice also prefer to return to their shelter. In general, a life of its own has formed behind the back wall of the terrarium. Everyone chooses the place where they feel most comfortable and safe. Because in a terrarium with its abundance of fauna, you never know where danger might come from. I hope you've already clicked the like button under this video, even without any threats, and subscribe to the channel. There are many more interesting events ahead. That's all for now. Bye bye.